Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Hate to interrupt a most excellent David Gilmour guitar solo, but we have business to attend to. Welcome to our latest design webinar. Today we're going to talk about Transport Estimator. Henry Wells is going to go over some new stuff that you guys need to know as far as getting this imported into, for us to get it imported into web precons, some things that are very important. And then Jason Littleton is going to dazzle us with his template tools knowledge. Got a couple of things to show, benching and some subgrade stuff. We probably will run a little long today, so expect this to go a few minutes past 10 o'clock. And if we get up into 10:15 or 10:30 or something like that, we would give more PDHs, more than just the normal hour that we give. Coming up, we are going to have a couple of webinars in November. On November the 5th, we're going to do visualization topics. Patrick will show us some stuff on that, on the materials, and how to do some quick renderings. On November the 19th, we're going to talk about super elevation. That is probably a little bit different than what we normally do. We'll delve into some design philosophy on that one as well as showing, how to do this with inroads. And then just a couple of things real quick before we get started. I always get questions on getting training credit for this. The only way we know how to do it is to take the attendees list at the end and issue credit for those that signed up and actually dialed in and attended. So I guess take that off there. I guess one thing that you could do if you want to watch it in a group, you could always dial in from your machine so your name is registered and we see you're on there, and then you could run over to a common area in a conference room or something and watch with your coworkers. That's always one way to do it. But just want everybody to know, if you're not signed up right now, we cannot issue a training certificate. And then last time I had mentioned HIDUG in November, but because of time constraints and just not being able to get an agenda nailed down and all the logistics, we're going to have to postpone that. That's why we're doing a webinar that week, first week in November. So we're going to postpone it probably first of next year. So I just wanted to make sure there's no confusion on that. So right now I'm going to turn this over to Henry, and he is going to show you guys some estimator stuff.
Okay, good morning, everybody. As Kevin said, I'm Henry Wells, and we're going to look at Estimator. Before we get started, I want to talk about a new version of Estimator. We're starting to roll out Estimator version 2.13a, and let's see, we've already got it pushed out to District 1, and last night we pushed it to Districts 2 and 3. I haven't seen the reports yet to see how that went, but that seems to be working pretty good, this upgrade. And I also want to thank Robert Hoagland. He's done an excellent job helping me prepare for this. He's come up with a bunch of notes that I need to share with you all. And he's also come up with this Estimator training manual, which he did for his people. And there's a few things that I'll need to edit to so there's no confusion on our part. But you can see it's a very nice looking manual, and I'll get that cleaned up and put out on the website for everybody to look at. I'll put that on the intranet. So I just want to show you those, tell you about those things real quick. And now let's go ahead and dive in. Probably the best way to use Estimator for transportation cabinet people is to double-click the icon on your desktop, because the icon is set up with both the username and the password, so you don't have to worry about logging in that way. When you open up Estimator, if there are new catalogs available, it will ask you to, if you want to download them and update. So I'm going to go through that process real quick. I'm going to select all the catalogs that are available, and it's just a matter of clicking next until it's finished, and we're done. Okay, so another thing I want to look at is how we in the transportation cabinet set up Estimator, and I will make some screenshots and some tutorials. That way the consultants can look at how we've got it set up for our estimates to work with our web pre-con stuff, so it imports easy for them. And that's really important because they're at the very end of the letting process, just before letting, and they're always in a crunch to get things done. So let's go to in Estimator, let's look at other tools, global options, and I'm just going to go over these real quick. Like I said, I will put together a document to show you how to set all this up. In the general tab, the only two things we want checked here are the roll-up item quantities for bid history prices and prohibit duplicate line numbers. The numeric rounding, the new estimate unit price rounding level, we want that set to cents. The same with the estimate extended amount rounding, and the estimate quantity rounding level, we want that to hundredths of a unit. The URLs are kind of a personal preference. These are the standards that we set for the transportation cabinet. You can have these files, these are just paths where the different files will reside, and you can set those up differently if you want to. The most important one, though, probably is right here, this URL. And you can't see all of it on the screen, but this is where all the catalogs are stored, and you want to turn on this automatically search for catalog updates on startup. That way you can always get the latest catalogs when they're published. And I will, like I said, I'll make screen captures and get those out on the web so consultants can have that information. So we're ready to start an estimate now. You can click on File, New, or you can click the New Estimate icon. Now we provide a template, and you always want to use that Highway Design Estimator template. Never use a blank template. If you use a blank template, we can't import it into the web pre-con software to get the bid package ready. So with the Highway Design Estimator template selected, I'll click OK. And let me expand that so we can see that real good. And the next thing we want to do when we're starting out our estimate is we want to set the catalog. So I'll click on Edit, Estimate Options, and right here for my catalog, I'll click that drop-down list, and you always want to use the newest catalog. Even if you're picking up an old project that's been sitting on the shelf for, I don't know, a couple of years, and now it's time to get it ready for letting, and there's an estimate already been done, you want to open up that estimate and change that catalog to the very newest one. So let's take a look at the interface a little bit. Over here on the right side, left side, sorry, I'm dyslexic. We have different groups for our bid items. You have a paving group, that's where all your paving items will go. The roadway group, that's where you put guardrail and all your roadway items. The same with drainage. Bridge group for all your structures and culverts. And I could read the list, but you can see it there. And the other one that's important is mobilization and demobilization. Over here on the right side in the top pane, with the estimate selected, we have our different all our information about our estimate. For example, an estimate ID, you have to have that. So I'm going to make one up. I usually use the item number. So I'm going to use a made-up item number 05-1234.56. I don't believe we use the latitude, longitude, and GPS and all that stuff. I don't think it's necessary. I also want to say that I am not an estimator expert, but I can find out the answers if we really need it. But as far as I know, nobody uses that. Now over here on this side, for work type, you always want to select the drop downs for these. So I'm going to scroll down here and select grade drain with asphalt surface. Highway type, we'll select interstate. We'll make it rural. The season, county, I'm going to select Franklin County because that's where I'm sitting, which is in District 5. Page 2 has other information. It's my understanding that the estimated buy and the date, I require those for general summary, but it's my understanding that for the web pre-con they do not want those filled out. So I'm going to show you some trickery later until I can update general summary that we can do to get our XML export file that'll work with general summary and not have to worry about the estimate. So I just want to make you aware of that, and I'll show you that later. Now the next step is start adding bid items. So I'm going to go to the paving group, and I'm going to right click on it and select add item. Now if you know the bid item number, you can just type it in, but like I said, I'm not an estimator expert. I don't know the bid item numbers. So what I'm going to do is out here by item, I'm going to click this little box, and that will let me find an item. And the easiest thing for me is to click in the description, and I will type in crushed stone base. So you can see as I start typing in, it starts filtering the list based on what I typed. So there's crushed stone base. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to add a quantity of 39,000. If it has all the bid history and the prices and stuff like that, it will automatically figure out the unit price for me and then calculate the total for that bid item. So we're good to go on that. Let's add another one to paving, and I want to add traffic bound base. So once again, I don't know these bid items, so I'll just do the quick find. There's my traffic bound base. Click OK, and I'm going to make that 54 tons. Let's go to and do a couple other groups. I'm just going to do a few more of these. I know you guys don't want to sit here and watch me just type in a bunch of bid items, so I'm only going to do a few. So let's go to the roadway group, and we'll add an item there. We'll add standard curb and gutter. So as you can see, I didn't type in standard. I just put curb and it finds it there, and there's my standard curb and gutter. So I'll add that. We'll make it 13,000 feet. And we'll add one more here. Let's add median barrier. So select. All right, that looks good. We'll use that. And I'll do 1,200 feet. Now, I want to talk about mobilization and demobilization. On every project, you're going to have demobilization. And the only place we want those, of course, is in the demob and mobilization group. So let's go ahead and add demob. Okay, now mobilization and demobilization are special bid items, and they're a percentage of the total estimate. So what we need to do now is we need to add a reference price. So I'll do that by selecting the demobilization, right-click on it, and I'll select Add Reference Price. So up here we have our information for our reference prices, and it is a percent of the estimate, and the percentage for demobilization is always 1.5%. Now you also need this reference price, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's just basically a text field. So I would put something like 1.5% for demob. Okay, now if your project estimate is $2 million or more, if it's more than $2 million, you also need to add mobilization. So let's do that real quick. And it also needs a reference price. So I'm going to right click on that and select Add Reference Price. And this works the same way. We turn on percent of estimate, and mobilization is always 5%. So I'll put a 5 there, and for our reference price we'll put in 5% for mobilization. I'm lazy, I'm not going to type it out though. Now you'll notice in the mobilization we also have a bid history. I've been told by Mr. Hoagland that it kind of messes things up a little bit if we have these two different prices in here. So let's right click on the bid history, and we're going to delete the bid history. That way we only have our reference price. So I've entered all my bid items. The other thing that they want us to do is remove any of the groups that do not have bid items in it. And I really haven't found an easy way except to right click on them and say delete group. I'm not going to delete all of them, but that's all you have to do is right click on the group and hit delete group. So we've got our estimate the way that it needs to be turned into with our plans. So what we need to do now is we just need to save it. So I'm going to click File, Save, and I'm going to put this just on my desktop for now. And it automatically gives it your estimate ID, and I'll click Save. Now, if you're going to use this estimate to create your general summary sheet with my general summary program, there's a couple of things that we need to do, and that's we need to move mobilization and demobilization up into the roadway group, and then we need to come back up to our estimate, and on page 2 set the date and who is estimated by. So now that we've got those two things done, we're going to click on File, Export, and we want to make sure it's an XML file. Once again, I'm going to put this just on my desktop for convenience, and I'll click Save. Now, what we want to do is we want to close out the estimate. It's going to ask us to save it. We don't want to save it because we wanted our MOB and DMOB down in the proper group. So I'm going to click No. And there's my estimate. I'm going to double click on it to open it back up. Here's where, if you don't click on the desktop icon to start Estimator, it'll ask you for a password. That password's no big secret. The password is password, P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D. I think I typed it wrong. Okay, and you can see that our MOB and DMOB are where they're supposed to be, and our estimated by is set up the way it's supposed to be. Another thing that you might want to look at too is the order that they're in. If you click on the group, then down here in the bottom right you've got a list of your bid items. You can organize them by item number, and then if you click on Edit, you can renumber using current order, and it will put all those bid items in that group in their item number order. That makes it a little bit easier when they're looking at the general summary sheet and they're looking at the estimate and they're comparing things. If everything's in the same order as in numeric order, it's a lot easier to find the items instead of having to flip through 2 or 3 pages trying to find the item you're looking for. So I'll do that again for the MOB and DMOB. Okay, so that's how we can create a new estimate. Let's take a look at a situation where we've got an old estimate, and we want to look at it and get it prepared for a listing. It's been sitting on the shelf for a while, and I've got an old one here. So I'm going to double click on it, open it up, put the password in there. Okay, and I get a message saying I can't open the catalog. That's because it was created with an old catalog, and you'll see that it's in read-only mode. So the first thing I want to do to get this estimate ready is I'm going to click on Edit, Estimate Options, and I'm going to select the newest available catalog and click OK. Now I can make changes. The easiest way to figure out where there might be problems with the estimate is to use this Verify button and verify the estimate. You'll get a list of errors. You can expand that out. Here's one that couldn't find the catalog item. So if you double click on that, it'll take you straight to the item. And so this is a problem where the item number or the name doesn't match. So what I'm going to do is they're called right-of-way monuments now, so I'm going to type in monument in the description. it changes that, clears that up. So I'll run verify again, go to the next error, and I keep on doing that. Here's one that says the required item supplemental description is blank. So I'll go to that. That's clearing and grubbing. There is no supplemental description. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, but I'll just type in this is a description. And that'll clear that error up. Remember I said we had to have a reference price name for mobilization and demobilization. You can see here on mobilization there is no price name, so we get an error. You can fix that. And that's basically how we go through and fix errors. Now a couple other things that I need to talk about are some issues, some things that just won't work right for us if we're set up wrong. These group names, for example, they have to be in all caps. Now, it's my understanding that you can have more than one group with the same name. For example, I could have another bridge group as long as I put in my description the structure number, but that bridge part has to be in all caps, and it has to be spelled exactly right. So that's let's see. Use the most recent catalog. Always use a sign template. Here's another one. Never ever use an alternate code. Every once in a while we'll get a estimate in that somebody may have accidentally tabbing through hit a button and put an alternate code in there, and when you've got a lot of bid items, it's hard. With that alternate code, you don't get the ability to import it into the web pre-con, and it can be a little difficult to track down which bid item is causing the problem. So, you know, as you're typing in, just be aware that we never use that alternate code. And you know, always verify your estimate before you get ready to submit it, and clear up any error messages. There is one error message though. If you get an error message that says the estimate contingency is non-zero, they said not to worry about that, that it's not a problem that needs correction. So that pretty much covers Estimator. Like I said, I will edit this manual for our purposes and get it out on the web, along with some information about getting Estimator configured to work with our web transport pre-con stuff. And if there are any questions,
before you close it out, we got questions.
Okay, that's what I was getting ready to say.
Yep. First question: if you go in and delete out a group or accidentally delete it and need to add it back, can you do that?
Yes, you can. What I would recommend doing, though, is starting a new estimate with the template, so you can make sure that you absolutely get the group number and name exactly right.
Yeah, has to be exact.
It has to be exact. If let me expand this one a little bit. See, there's the group number and the description, and you know, that part of it has to be exact. You can change that description. For example, a bridge, you can add to it and say bridge number 21354, Um, and you can have multiples, but if you have to add one back, I would go look at, I would open up a new estimate, create a new estimate, just to make sure that I get those group names exactly right. You might even want to do a copy and paste.
Okay. Next question before you go anywhere, go back to the main screen there, Henry.
The main screen.
The main header group, the top level of
Oh,
your tree.
okay. Yes.
Spec year, did you ever get clarification on that being locked at 08?
I did not get clarification on that, so I would say let's just leave it what the default is.
Yeah, I mean, you can't change it, can you? Or can you type in the
I
default?
don't think you can. Of course, I'm in a no, I don't want to save that. No, you can't change it, so.
It doesn't seem to affect it, but we'll get clarification on whether that's something that needs to be updated in the future. Okay, right there underneath that, the base date, you didn't touch on changing the date.
No, I did not touch on changing the date. I can't remember what we said that should be. Was that supposed to be today's date?
Today's date. The manual, when you get down into the manual for PS&E, they say to change it to today's date, whatever date you create.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to give out wrong information.
Yeah, if there's any more significance to that, we may need to get clarification from them, but their own manual says today's date. The other question, consultants, how do they go about getting the software and getting a hold of the manual?
The manual I will post on the internet, so that'll be a PDF
right?
for direct download. I'm sorry?
Internet.
Internet. So everybody will have access. I don't know how consultants get Estimator. I would think you'd have to get it through Ashtoware.
Yeah, I believe that somebody asked about that, and I believe that's what we said was we have to.
I don't
work it out with the vendor.
Right. I don't think it's. I don't think our license will allow us to provide that to you. I think you have to get that through Ashtow or Infotech or whoever the vendor is for Ashtoware.
Okay. But for any consultants out there that know that answer, feel free to send us a message or put it in the question, and we'll clarify on that. Okay, got some more. Got a bunch of questions, Henry.
Okay.
Okay, this is one that I had thought of too. I've had to do it in the past. When you open an old estimate and you change to a newer catalog, you used to have to go in to, I think it's under Edit. There were 3 check boxes, and you had to check one of those to get it to update price information, I believe is what they're referring to. And you go, that was how you could get it to update the stuff that's already been placed with the new catalog.
Okay, see, like I said, I didn't know that. I'm not an estimator expert. I didn't know how to do that. So it looks like you've got 3 different options on how to update the price information.
Yeah, I believe we use the middle one, the time-dependent data. I believe that's correct. But it looks like even in this new version, that's still something that we would need to do if you're updating old stuff.
Yes, I would think so then.
Okay, I'm going down through the questions. Someone asked about the general summary import. I assume that it's referring to that whole process of getting an XML file in and what it does.
Right.
And we did a webinar on that before, right?
Right, but I can describe a little. Maybe that'll help just a little bit. The general summary program basically takes the XML file that I created earlier with this estimate and takes all the bid items and quantities and creates a general summary sheet with those bid items and quantities.
Very, very handy. Okay, got an update here. there's a link on our homepage that will take consultants to Estimator website, so they can link off of our homepage to go out and get that
Okay.
themselves.
I guess I need to look at our website better.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I didn't know that. It's always on my desktop. I don't really care. And then Jeremy Peavy chimed in here. He gave the contact info. If anybody needs that, let's see if I can get a screen capture. Hold on. I think this will work. Well, for some daggone, there it is. I'm going to send this to all. That's the contact information. Hopefully everybody can see it now when I answer that question back. So in your questions and answer pane, hopefully you'll see the contact info, the phone number, and all that information for Estimator. Let's see. Okay, someone else has a question here. Can you have, let's see, so you can have paving, mainline, paving, access road, etc. So if you want to break your paving quantities out into multiple paving groups, you can do that. And it can be called paving, mainline, paving, whatever. Correct, Henry?
I believe that's correct. That's the information I've gotten from Robert Hoagland. That's the way they do the different structures. So it seems logical to me that you'd be able to do that with paving as well. I mean, and you could always start another estimate too. You could have multiple estimates.
Mm. Let's see, and then one last question about the MOB and DMOB. Is it smart enough to avoid circular referencing? So, I'm talking about not calculating it, trying to calculate itself, and you can exclude other bid items. Touch on that real quick, Henry.
Yes, you can. The circular reference is not a problem.
That one.
And what was the other one?
Excluding item. Yeah, if there is an item that you want to exclude, you can also check that draft. Yeah, there.
Right there. Exclude item from reference price calculations.
Yeah, I think some of the, like the fuel adjustments and stuff like that, won't need to be excluded. But yeah, okay. It will, as far as I know, it will calculate the percentages properly without trying to go back on it.
And another thing I forgot to touch on too is if it doesn't come up with a unit price automatically, you can put an ad hoc unit price in there.
Yes.
For example, if I know that $11.47 is just way too high, I can put $11.38. So I can override that price.
Yes, yes.
That $11.38 is much more reasonable than $11.47.
Yeah, very funny. Let's see. Got one more question here about going back to groups. If you break out multiple groups, so you have multiple structure types, do they keep the same group number, or you're going to have an incremental group number and a different description? Is that correct?
You'll have it. Yeah, you can't have the same group number. You'll have to make sure that you don't have any duplicate group numbers.
Yeah, because if you do, it probably won't work, and it'll bomb.
It won't. It'll bomb when they try to upload it into the web precon.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions that I've got right now, Henry. I know you got to cut out. If we get any more, we'll try to answer them.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, you can just you can send me an email. I'll try and find out the answers because I'm definitely not the estimator expert, and I will turn this presentation over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, ready? Yeah, well, Jason gets loaded because they're using the same screen. Just pull that back up for lack of better backdrop. Let's see here. I forgot to do this at the first, but it turns out I need to kill a little time in the middle, so I'm going to launch a little poll just to see how many people out there are coming back for more gluttons for punishment. So if you would, please answer the poll question while Jason gets his stuff loaded up. Okay, I'll go ahead and close it. Looks like most people, that 63% have been here before, 37% new people. Welcome. Where have you been this whole time? Now, I'm glad you're joining us. Hopefully you'll find these things useful. Like I said, this one's going to run a little long because Jason is going to go into some deep stuff. I'm going to turn it over to him. And again, if you have any other questions, you can ask, even on Estimator, ask them now, and we'll try to get to them at the end. And if we don't answer something and you want to ask later, feel free to email any of us, call any of us. We're here to help, and we'll try to get clarification if we didn't answer your question appropriately. So, Jason, are you on there?
Yeah, ma'am.
All right. There we go.
All right, as I believe Kevin has mentioned, you should know by now we're going to go over a couple of specific template topics that you may have use for in your models. The first one is roadway cut benches and how you get those to actually model and seek a particular elevation. I know the templates have functionality to do benches automatically, say 20 foot tall for 15 benches. But that's not the way that we do things here in Kentucky. We go for a specific elevation, and I'll show you how to do that right now. What you see up on my screen there is a geotech sheet. So we're going to build this left side. We have 3 intermediate benches. We're going to seek the RDZ line and then put a 2-to-1 cut slope above that. So I'll just go on ahead and get into it. I've got I'm going to create a brand new template here, and we'll call this bench 4353 because that was the station it was at. So first thing I'm going to do is actually open up my dynamic settings dialog box. You can do by tools, dynamic settings, or down here at the bottom you have a little icon you can toggle. That's just going to help me do my best to keep things straight as we're building these components. So new in condition component. So all these components are going to be in conditions. We're just going to add them on to the end of the previous one. So that first in condition, we're going to build the ditch 4 slope and then the first bench face. So I'll come down here in my component properties. I'll say this will be V-ditch. And one thing to keep in mind, we do have specific style set up for components. That's going to help with some visualization, which we're going to talk about, I believe, on the 5th. So I'm going to come down here, and we have a proposed rock cut component style that when you view it in MicroStation, it will look like a rock material. So I've got the name and style set up. One thing different than most in conditions for this bench, we're going to target an elevation. So you have all different kinds of target types. But for this bench, we're targeting a specific elevation. So I'll select that elevation, and then the elevation of that first bench was supposed to be at is 818.8. So I'll put that down in that vertical offset. So let me get my points started here. And like Patrick said last time, you have some precision key-ins that you can use here. You can either select them from that drop-down list, or you can type them in directly there. I just want to start at 0, 0 with my shoulder point. Then I'm going to go to the ditch V bottom, but I'm not going to check for interception, so I'm toggling those off. And I'll set my point name to ditch V. We're going to go vertical and slope. We're going to go down 3 foot vertically at a 1 to 6 slope. So that'll put 3 foot deep ditch at a 6 to 1. And then we don't have a point name for benches, but I can type it in here and change the point style. Now I'm wanting to seek that elevation, so I'm going to check for interception, I'm going to place a point, and make sure that end condition is infinite. And the values we put in here as far as the vertical aspect is not that important, because it's going to go on ahead and seek until it finds 818. If it can't find it, then it's going to fail. The more important one here is the slope. So I'm already on the vertical slope, so I'll go up 15 feet at a -1 to 1/2 slope. That's what Geotech said they wanted, is a 1/2 to 1 face on that. And there it is. So I'll finish that first end condition. That gets us up to 818. Now we're going to start building in conditions on top of it. So the next one I'm going to say is bench 1. Same style, because we're still in rock. We're going to seek an elevation again, and the elevation of that second bench was 850.3. So I'm going to change my point name just to keep things going here. Snap to the end of that last end condition. Again, not checking for interception. We'll do horizontal and slope is -15 feet, because that's how I do on the bench, and we'll say it's flat. And it draws it for me. Now I can turn back on the check for interception and change that point name and do my vertical slope 15. Actually, since I've already typed that in, I can just hit the up arrow while I'm in there. And there it is. I don't have to type it in again. So let's go on ahead and create the next one. That last bench, the elevation was 882.3. So come in here and make sure my point names I'm keeping up with. No interception. This time the bench was 25 foot wide. So I'm just going through here, building this template with the data that Geotech has given me. So I'll finish that. One more end condition. Okay, this last bench, if you remember, we went to 818, then we came up to 850, and we've drawn this end condition to get up to 882. This next one is actually seeking the RDZ surface. So we're going to do something a little different here, where that instead of seeking an elevation, we're going to seek a surface. And we can say we want to seek that RDZ surface. So somebody's on in and created that RDZ surface for us. Or one of our designers had gone in and created it so that we could use it. And we can say, hey, I want you to seek this particular surface. So go in and change your point name. We're not checking for interception yet. Horizontal was 18 foot. And then we can come back up. We're going to check for interception, and we'll do our vertical aspect again. So that gets us up to our RDZ. Now all we have to do is throw our cut component on there. So I'll change the component style. We have a PR cut component style that will make it look like a grass style. So just snap to the end of that bench, change my point name to cut. We're going to check for interception, and we're going to go vertically. We'll do 15 feet at a negative 1 to 2. So that's kind of odd because we say it's a 2 to 1 slope, but in the template you have to put it the opposite direction. So that built our benching template. So we'll go in and test it, and because we called out particularly for an RDZ surface, we have to draw both that and this active surface. But it's not drawn right now. I've got my RDZ surface. You can see the outline of that template. The reason why this is happening, it's starting from 0, 0, and that first bench was targeting elevation 818. So we've drawn RDZ at elevation 67, so it's not going to find anything. For these, we're going to have to zoom all the way out, come up here, and then we can see that it's actually working because it was specifically targeting that elevation. So you have to draw your surfaces above that. So I've actually, let me save this. I've got a corridor set up that we can try this on. Let me get everything set up. I'm just going to go in here and drop a template, that one we just made. Now normally you'd be off the shoulder, but just to show you how this is working, I'll just use that end condition there. Maybe. Let's see. That would be why. There we go. So as I'm stepping through, you can see that last bench is changing, and actually this first bench down here at the ditch bottom, the height of that is changing, but the two in between are constant because you have an elevation you're targeting here, an elevation here, and an elevation here. So that seems to be working pretty well. So we're just going ahead and save that, and we'll get going on the subgrade component. The subgrade component, this one's a little complicated. What we're wanting to do, I've actually already got a template with the right side done. So I'll show you what we're seeing here. In a normal field situation, you have three scenarios, three basic scenarios here. You have normal field where we've got a crushed stone base layer, and underneath that we have a 2-foot rock road bed. In a normal field situation, both those would daylight out to the field slope. You also have a situation where you have a ditch, where the rock road bed may or may not turn vertical beneath the ditch flow line, and the crushed stone base, depending on how deep your ditch is and what your super elevation is, may or may not do the same. And then you also have a scenario where you're in a shallow fill. You're not in a ditch yet, but you're in that shallow fill, and those little wedges on the edge are turning vertical underneath that fill point. So really, to build this, we need to draw 3 different sets of components and use display rules on when each should show up. So we'll go into this left side here and start drawing our components. So we're going to just use constrained components, and this first one we'll call the left crushed stone base. And we have, again, we have feature styles set up for these so that they'll look the way that you're wanting them to if you view them in 3D. And we'll just start tracing around. We go from the shoulder, the edge pave shoulder, down here to the bottom of the crushed stone base layer. And then let me change my point name. We'll go to the left, tie-in, crushed stone. And I'm going to do horizontal slope. We'll go 10 foot horizontally at 4% because I know that that shoulder's 4%. And we'll finish. Okay. Now we need to come in and edit the constraints on that point. We want it to be vector offset to match the vector of the bottom of the crushed stone base layer. So we go from that edge of pave shoulder to that super break point, and we want to constrain that to 0. So we want it to snap directly on whatever that slope is. We want it to project on out. Also, I'm going to just real quick, just to make it pretty, snap it to that 4:1 fill slope so that it'll, when I'm testing it, I can, nice. But now I need to project a design. So project a design is actually going to vector that we've assigned and project the fill slope we have out there. Do the same thing for the rock road bit. And just change some. And we're going to assume the normal fill that the crushing has daylighted out. So we're going to, and we'll do the 4% again. Again, we got to change our constraints. We need to set it to snap to that vector at the bottom of the rock road bed. And then I'm also going to set this just to clean it up for now. And then I can immediately go and set project to design. So I built those normal components. Let's test them real quick. Well, looks like it's projecting all the way out there anyway. Let me change this real quick, see if I can figure out why it's doing that. That should actually be, my apologies. See if it's just how that thing's, yeah, it was just getting hung up out there, but project a design, you can see it's actually projecting all the way out there to daylight. Well, when we get up in the shallow fill, that projected design is actually projecting all the way back across to the other side of the template. Because it doesn't have anything to project to on the left side, it's going back to the right. And we can fix that. So in the projected design constraint, this value down here, we can say that's going to give you the opportunity to tell it what side you want it to look on and for how long. So if I only want it to look on the left side, I can select negative, and I only want to go out, we'll say 50 feet. Surely to goodness they'll find something within 50 feet. So we'll set that to negative 50. If it's on the right side, you do positive value. So I'll do that for both of them. If we can test it, now in that shallow fill situation, it's not projecting to the other side, it's not finding anything. It's just going to hang out right where I drew it. Okay, so that takes care of the normal fill for now. Let's go on ahead and draw the ditch components. So actually I need to add some null points first. I like to use null points for use with display rules to tell things when they need to turn on, turn off. They're just kind of set out there on their own. They're not really part of any component. So you can make some adjustments to them without really affecting your template that much. So left, rock road bed, ditch, check. And I'm going to set my origin, which Patrick showed a little bit last week, or last webinar, to that edge of pay shoulder. Then I'll do an origin slope. So I'll go, the ditch is actually 20 feet from that point horizontally, so -20 at a 4% slope. So then I come in and set constraints. I want it to be vector offset and horizontal. Vector offset to match the slope of the bottom of the rock road bed, and then horizontal to that ditch flow line point. We're just going ahead and force those to 0. And while we're at it, we're going ahead and make one for the crushed stone base. Same workflow, actually the same offsets in this situation. So we'll just go through and set these constraints real quick. We're matching the bottom of the crushed stone base and horizontally constrained to the ditch flow line. So now if I test these point control here, you can see those 2 points are actually following along. They're projecting along that slope of the subgrade out to wherever the ditch flow line is. So now we can draw our component. For this first one, we're going to start with the rock road bed. And we're going to assume that the crushed stone base is actually allowed to daylight out to the ditch force slope. So we can come in here to the normal component we drew, because that would be projected all the way out to the ditch force slope. And we'll start there and start tracing around. So we'll change our name. So left, tie-in rock road bed in the ditch situation. So horizontal and slope, I said it was 20 feet. From the point, I want to stop just short of that, 19.99, just in case I need to make a subgrade surface. I don't have two features right on top of one another. Oh, and I keyed in the wrong slope, so I can undo that last point and change that to the proper slope. And then I'll just snap to this ditch flow line. So now I need to get in here and actually manipulate these constraints a little bit. Like we've been doing the whole time, we want vector offset to match the bottom of the rock road bed, and we want to do horizontally to this ditch flow line. And we have that 1/100th of a unit offset just so that it's not directly underneath that ditch bottom. So I apply that, and now I test my point control. You can see it's actually turning up underneath that ditch flow line. When I get deep, it actually has a little bow tie effect. So we need to set up a point or a display rule, to tell it when that component will be displayed. So if I double click and edit the component, I have this display rules down here, and I can edit it. You see I've got some already set up for the right hand side. Down here in the lower right, you can add display rules, or really it's tests of between different points, or what component is displayed. So we'll give it a name: left rock road bed ditch vertical. Give it a description: the left rock road bed turns vertical below the ditch flow line. One thing to keep in mind with the display rules: the name does not allow spaces, so I put in those underscores to kind of separate it out a little bit. If you put spaces, it's going to jam it all together. So I'm going to do a vertical comparison. I'm going to say if the elevation of that ditch flow line minus the elevation of that checkpoint that I put in there is greater than 0, so that means that the ditch flow line is above that checkpoint, then I want it to turn vertical. So in this situation, you can see it's actually already true. So I can hit to add that selected rule, and I can verify if I had a long expression in there to see what the result would be. So hit OK. We apply that and close. Now if I test my point control, when it would have turned into a bow tie there, we've turned off. And now it's turning vertical. So now let's create a component just in case the crushed stone base needs to turn vertical as well. We have a very shallow ditch. So this vector would not project out to anything out there. So the ditch would actually turn vertical as well, or the crushed stone would. So we'll just create our component, give it the proper style, and let me go ahead and change my point name so I can just get going. And we're going to just trace around the left shoulder to the edge of paved shoulder to that subgrade point. And then if we look here, it's actually 8 feet horizontally, so I'm going to go 7.99 at 0.04% and snap to that ditch flow line. So if I go in that point that I just placed and edit the constraints, again, we're going to need the vector offset, and we're going to constrain it horizontally to that ditch flow line. So to make that turn out right. Now in this situation, actually the rock road bed is vertical as well, which you can see right there. It's already it's going to draw the first component we drew for the rock road bed under the ditch. It's going to draw that as well, which will have this little wedge right up here going up to the ditch flow line. So we need to draw a new component that is the rock road bed when the crushed stone base is actually vertical as well. And we can do, everything's already set for us, we just need to snap and trace around these component points. And it's just a parallelogram, so it's pretty easy. What we're going to do, there's the component we just placed. We're going to make that a child component of that crushed stone base when it's vertical beneath the ditch. So if the crushed stone base doesn't show up, neither will that one. So we'll hit apply, and we'll test the point controls real quick. We're still seeing that bow tie effect on that crushed stone, so we'll have to assign a display rule on that as well. So we'll come up here and do our display rules. We'll add another one, just like the rock road bed, left crushed stone base, ditch vertical. left CSB turns vertical below ditch flow line. And it's always, I think it's always a good idea to put a little description, because the display rules can get a little convoluted. So just put a little description to give you a little reminder of what it's actually supposed to be doing. So again, we're going to check to see if the flow line is above that crushed stone checkpoint. If it's greater than 0, then that component would need to be displayed. So we're going to add that to our component there. And then if we test our point controls, you should see that turn off, and now you don't have that bow tie. But we also need to do one more thing for this rock roadbed component. We need to further clarify what we want that to, when we want that to display. So we want it to display when that checkpoint is below the ditch bottom, but not when the crushed stone checkpoint is below the ditch bottom, because we've actually gone on ahead and drawn another component for that. So when that rock roadbed ditch turns vertical, and not when the crushed stone base turns vertical. So that'll help us clean up the display a little bit. So, which I know you can't see it now, but when we get into the corridor, you'll be able to see that. So, so that's the ditch. I'm going to get that out of the way, and we'll bring that back when we get close to finishing. Now we need to do the situation where you're in a very shallow fill. So I'm just going to pull this up to where that would be a shallow fill situation. And again, I want to do some null points just to do some checks. And I always like to set them to do not display, because I don't want those somehow getting into my finished model, so that I don't have to worry about some odd features in there. So left rock roadbed, let me get my caps on, shallow fill. And again, going to do an origin slope. It looks like it's 14 feet. I'm just comparing that edge of pay shoulders at 34 feet and the fill slopes at 48 feet. So the difference there is 14. That's where I'm getting that. And then I'm going to go on ahead and do one for the crushed stone as well. The same offsets. Maybe I need to add a new component. There we go. So I'll go in at constraints on this. Again, vector offset and horizontal. I mean, we've done this 3 times now, so we can get going. You're pretty much drawing the same component 3 times, but it's just a little bit different. It's complicated, but it makes your model turn out a lot nicer. So now that I've got those null points in there, I can actually draw my shallow fill components. So I'll start with the rock roadbed again. So I've got my point name set. Again, we're going to the subgrade, the crushed stone actually daylights out for now, and we'll trace on around. Horizontal, we said that was 14 feet, so I'll step back 100th. at 0.04, and then I'll just snap to that fill point. Again, vector offset and horizontal. And there's our where the subgrade turns vertical. So it's turning into a bow tie down there. So again, we need to do some display rules. So I'll just edit that component and add where the left rock road bed shallow is rock road bed is shallow. We'll do that. So left rock road bed turns vertical below shallow fill catch. So again, if the elevation of that fill point minus the elevation of that null point we put in there is greater than 0, then we'll show that. Which I selected that rule, and it's true. So when I come down here, when I get into what would be a normal fill situation, that bow tie effect is gone. So let's go for a really shallow fill and draw our new component for the crushed stone base when it turns vertical. So we've got trace around just like we did the first couple times, and we're going to go, looks like it's going from 34 to 40, so negative 5.99, 0.04, and then snap to the fill catch point. Again, we'll have to come in here and change our constraints. My computer's hanging up here, so we're snapping to that vector of the bottom of the crushed stone base. I have 1/100th of an offset, 1/100th of a unit offset. And there's that. And again, just like with the ditch situation, in this situation, if the crushed stone's vertical, the rock road bed will be as well. So we'll draw a special component for the rock road bed. And just start tracing around. You've got to be careful that you pick the right points, especially right there because they're 1/100th of a foot off. So we'll go in and edit that component. Again, we're going to make it a child of the crushed stone in that situation. So if we test this point control, well, the crushed stone's giving you that bow tie now as well. So let's set a display rule for it. Oh, that was the wrong component. There it is. So we'll create another display rule where the left crushed stone base is shallow. Left CSB turns vertical below shallow fill catch. Again, we're going to do a vertical comparison between the fill point and that checkpoint, that null point we put in there. And if that's greater than 0, then we want it to show up. So right there is true. And now if we test our point control, you don't have that bow tie anymore. But just like with the ditch, we need to go back into our shallow rock road bed one and do some further clarification. So when the rock road bed needs to turn up and not when the crushed stone base needs to turn up. So right now it would be turned off. So that gets us all three sets of components drawn. We just need to do one more thing, and that is we've not set any display rules for the normal components. So actually I'm going to start with the rock road bed, and the rock road bed, I only want that to turn on when none of those other components that we drew for the ditch or for the shallow fill, I only want it to turn on when those aren't on. So I'll go in and create some components real quick. Left rock road bed ditch displayed. And then I can say I want to test if a component is displayed. And I can come down and select the component that I'm wanting to test against. So I'll go back in and create another one. For the shallow fill. And there it is. We also have to compare for the rock road bed. We have to compare against the crushed stone base as well. So left crushed stone base in the ditch situation is displayed. And we can come down and select that. And one more for the crushed stone in a shallow fill. Okay. So now we've got those display rules created, and we need to create an expression for when we want that left rock road bed to display. So again, we said we wanted that to display only when those other four weren't. So I can select not, and this just runs off of logical expressions. So when not, put this all these into one expression. So when that crushed stone ditch is displayed, selected rule. So if that one's displayed, or the shallow is displayed, or for the rock road beds situations as well. So that's saying if any one of these is true, I don't want you to show up. So right now, because we have our ditch is all the way out of the way, our fill slope is all the way out of the way, it actually comes up as true. So hit apply, and now if I test this ditch point, you see that actually turns off when my ditch gets shallow for that rock road bed to turn vertical. So I'll go ahead and put that back to where it was originally as a 3-foot deep ditch. And now I need to do my crushed stone as well. The crushed stone, because it's on top of the rock road bed, really doesn't care about the rock road bed. So road bed we had to test against the crushed stone base components as well. We don't have to do that here. For the crushed stone base, all we have to check is if either of those other two crushed stone bases are displayed. So just like we did for the rock road bed, not when the ditch component is displayed or the shallow fill component is displayed, which in this situation is true. So we'll apply and close that, and just give it a little test real quick. Obviously you can't do much with the ditch components because you can't change that ditch flow line. That's why we were testing it in the template editor itself. I can already see one problem. Well, there's the ditch situation.
Jason, I think your audio has completely cut out. Still not hearing anything. So can people at least hear me
Hello?
talking? Oh,
Can
there
you hear me?
are. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, got you back. It's been cutting in and out, but it's gotten worse, and then just completely cut out there on you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Where was I? You remember what I was talking about when I left off?
No, it was just a few seconds ago, maybe 30 seconds from.
Okay.
I think right after.
Well, what I noticed was my ditch component was showing up even in a fill situation, because my null point that I'm comparing against is still hanging out down here at the bottom of that rock road bed. So what I need to do is take this component, that ditch component, and make it a child of the ditch itself, so it won't show up if the ditch isn't present. So we can assign to be a child of the ditch and also have those display rules. So that ditch, if it's on, then it'll check these display rules to see whether it needs to be turned on or off. If the ditch is off, it'll just turn it off. So we'll go on ahead and do that, and we can test it. And now we see we're actually working the way we want it to. So I know this has been very painful for you all, but just bear with me. We'll throw this into Roadway Designer real quick and show you what we've done. So I saved my template library. I can close that. I also have another corridor set up for the subgrade. I've got some parametric constraints just so that we can go through each scenario, but other than that, I have nothing else set up in here. So I'll just assign that template, and let me zoom in here. Let's see, 80% and do 5. So if you'll just watch that left side as I step through this template, you'll see how these components are actually working because we built left side just now. So up till now, I've been in a normal fill situation. It's getting ready to go into shallow. It's turning up. You're not seeing any of the other components on. Just kind of going in and out. And I know you'd have a ditch there, but just to demonstrate what those components are doing, I'm forcing it to have that fill slope there. So there it's a really shallow fill, and then we get a really shallow ditch right after that. And then it projects on out. Once that ditch flow line is below where rock road bed projected would be, it turns off the ditch component and just goes to the normal component there. So that's all. If anybody's still with us, if you have questions, we can try to answer those now. I understand.
No, there is one question. Can you see the questions, Jason, on your end?
Yes.
It'd just be easier if that last one there is a question. Be easier if you just read it and maybe talked about it.
Which one? Let's see. What if the ground line would be intercepted between benches?
Yeah.
Do you have to add extra end conditions for that? Yes, for the road bench. I'll go back. Say your ground liner, maybe even your RDZ, actually hits right in through here in the middle of that bench. You would probably, I would make a complete other template for that, or a complete other in-condition chain for that, rather than trying to build it all into one, because these benches are changing. I mean, as you go through the cut, you're going to be adding benches and taking benches away. So I would probably just go through and make a component for each situation as you come to it, rather than trying to jam them all into one. I just think it'd probably get really complicated really quick. I don't know if that answered the question, but
hopefully it did. If not, you can always contact Jason, call him, or email him to do some follow-up.
yes, that's, if you have any questions, you can feel free to call us about it. And
did have somebody ask about to get examples of this in the delivered ITL file with our
yes,
workspace. Oh, we did have those, and
yes, they're actually under the example templates folder. The subgrade that we just walked through is in there, in one form or another. It's in there. It does the same things, but just so you know how to go through and create it if you wanted to on your own. Maybe this doesn't match what you exactly need. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else still awake out there?
well, we did go long. I totaled about
Yes.
an hour and a half, so we'll give 1.5 PDHs for this for everyone who stayed awake through it. Appreciate that.
Yes. We'll adjust those accordingly.
Jason, can we go over a little more complicated one next time, maybe?
Yeah, we can probably come up with a more complicated template if you like.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Okay.
And I guess we'll go ahead and shut her down. Hey guys, everybody that tuned in, I appreciate it. Hopefully this will help, and we're going to try to get these out in a more timely manner onto the website here in the near future. I know we're behind a few months. We're going to try to do better. If you have any questions, let us know through the CAD, the main group email, or if it's specific like this one for Jason, individually email or call us. We'll be happy to help. And we'll hopefully do this again a couple times in November. So with that, we'll go ahead and shut her down. Thanks for attending.